So hello, everybody. I'm John Scott, and I am a public speaking coach here in San Francisco. And I have been working over the last year with my partner, Ruggiero Della Santa, and we've created a new business. It's called Screen Coaching for Business. And so, over the last 30 years, I've been coaching public speakers, singers, and business leaders on how to be great at communicating. And there are so many important benefits to being a great communicator. You see people who are like on TV doing TED Talks or really leading in their space. And I can guarantee you, if they got to be on a top level like that, they had a team of people that were working with them. So Ruggiero and I really enjoy working with people kind of on the art side of being a business leader. What are the emotional things that go into a presentation? How do you effectively communicate on camera as opposed to a live event? So we like to use a video pitch, but just think about some of the benefits for you about being great at communicating. First of all, it really helps you with your team. If you've got a team of people working with you, if you can effectively deliver your message and keep everybody in the loop about what's important, you're going to have a better work product, a better work environment. It's also really important for your own career. If you think about giving presentations to large groups, people are going to know you, people are going to see your personal brand, and it's going to be a lot easier for you to rise up to that next level of your career. If you are in a position where you need to recruit programmers and other top talent for your team, it really takes more than just a big salary. A lot of people who are on the top level of the programming world, they're looking for something cool. They're looking for a hot team. And being able to be a great communicator, set a vision, and lead an impressive team is an important aspect to recruiting. It'll also make it so much more fun to appear on TV panels or whatever media appearances that you have. You can look forward to it because putting that time into your public speaking skills makes all that stuff more fun. So let's get into it. We like to think about the video pitch. It's kind of a thing with investors and founders, but we found that just thinking about a short video pitch or whatever pitch that you're making is a great way to work on this. So if you haven't already got a pencil and paper, I'd love for you to grab one right now and just think about this. What is it that you need to communicate now? It could be something for your work, or it could be something as simple as, something happening in your family. For instance, I've got adult kids that just got home from college. So I'm thinking about a pitch that I want to make to them about cleaning up the kitchen, because it is going to be a bunch of work to keep this kitchen clean now that we have a full house. You can make a pitch about your product or about something that you need delivered. So think about that pitch, whatever elevator pitch that you have, and jot it down, because it'll be helpful for us to work on this together a little bit. So here we go. 7 steps to a great pitch. Start with the end in mind. Think about your pitch and about how you want your audience to feel at the end of the presentation. So I'm thinking about my kids. I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I can just picture them happily working together, cleaning up the kitchen. This is going to be great. So think about, what is the emotion that you want your audience to feel at the end of your elevator pitch? What does success feel like? Put it in emotional terms. People base their actions not on metrics, not on numbers, but how they feel. Now, we like to use a problem solution approach to defining a pitch. There's a lot of different structures you can use to whatever talk you're giving, but let's take problem solution. So I'm thinking about my son. He's walking in the kitchen. He's complaining about the floor being dirty. I say, Peter, Isn't it awful when you have crumbs sticking to your bare feet? I want to resonate with his pain about this problem. Another great problem that a founder had, he solved this problem actually. He created an app for people that wanted to walk their dogs and find other dog owners who wanted to do a play date. And he was explaining his app to us. And it was all about metrics and numbers. And I said, how did you make this app? You know, what happened? And he said, well, I work in Manhattan and I have a husky, and it was damn hard to get this dog on a play date. And so we took that real story and we worked it into a great little pitch where he talked about the importance of being able to find other dog owners that your dog can play with. So think about resonating with the pain, because then you get to come in with a solution. And with the solution, you ride in on your white horse. You want to create a contrast energetically from that problem so that your talk has momentum. It has an energy arc. Enthusiasm, positive feelings about your solution, about the way that your solution is going to make the world a better place is really important. So when we work with people, usually working with hands is one of the first things we do. And a lot of you are probably already great public speakers. Some of you may be just beginning. But using the hands is very important because it demonstrates trust. There's a psychological principle that if you can see somebody's hands, you tend to believe them. We shake hands when we meet people. Hands allow you to really take advantage of your little screen here. And it's important to visually communicate well using your hands. Something that's a little bit more long-term, a little harder for people to understand, has to do with voice range. And a lot of the time when people begin talking, on camera or in live audience, they don't use enough range. And they're just kind of talking in this one tone of voice, and it gets to be a monotone, otherwise known as monotonous. So when you talk, use pitch. You can imagine pitch going up and pitch going down. And the direction that you pitch really has an amazing, powerful effect to your message. A lot of the times when we ask a question, you say, do you really mean that? We go up. But there's other ways that you can kind of go overboard with that. And there's something called upspeak, where some people will talk with their voice trailing up all the time. And it makes them sound like they're not sure of themselves. And it makes it sound really hard to listen to. So it's good to listen back to yourself and think about range. And what we do notice is that the people who are giving the highest level TED Talks are some of the people that are talking with the biggest range in their voice, from high note to low note. We actually use software to map this and create something called an intonation map. And it's really fun and interesting to watch. A great hook is a really key part of your elevator pitch. Creating some kind of memorable, surprising phrase that is going to serve as your hook is really, really important. For instance, Steve Jobs, when he announced the iPod, he came out and he said, hey, 30,000 songs in your pocket. That was a memorable hook. It's been 30 years, and I still remember that. Another great hook was created by Kong Pham. His company, Jump Cut, has an online educational program, and he says, we make online courses that feel like movies. I'm like, whoa, that's great. A hook takes a bit of energy, takes a little bit of the play, but can be a very important part of any message that you give. Finally, don't do it alone. It's important to involve other people in the preparation of your communication skills. Be a team player, bounce your ideas off people, and work with others as you craft your message, as you work on your communication. it helps you avoid procrastination. Like for instance, earlier today, I connected with my partner, Rogero, and I ran through this little talk with him. He gave me some tips. He gave me some insights that I would have missed by myself. It also helps build confidence. And so to that end, I do want to let you know that Rogero and I are creating cohorts in July for what we're calling Public Speaking 2.0. And it's just kind of taking where public speaking was before the pandemic and translating it into what you have to do to communicate on camera. Because the skills are a little different, it's not rocket science, but being able to communicate online is obviously really critical, and working with others to this event is very helpful. So we are forming cohorts in July, and I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be great. Feel free to send me a chat here on LinkedIn if you're interested, and I look forward to connecting with you. And that is the end of my presentation. Back to you, Alex.
Thank you, John. That was great. So now we are on to Q&A. Who has a question to John? I could start, actually. So you mentioned talking about problems, and especially how about the pain of the person you're addressing and
Right.
their feelings. So my question is, how do you then apply that in a business context, especially in the context of technical leaders? So, for example, if we're talking about CTOs talking to CEOs, or we're talking perhaps about managers talking to VP of engineering or their director, how would you phrase? And so, for example, the manager may be pitching some idea to the VP. How would you incorporate these ideas of evoking emotion in that context?
Sure. And you know, I appreciate all of you just being generous right now with the chat. So if you could just throw any kind of question into the chat, I would greatly appreciate it. But going into that, I think that the phrase, "Isn't it frustrating when blank," is very powerful. So let's take a situation a friend of mine was in where he lost his star programmer to a competitor. And let's say that he's needing to talk to his management and explaining why he needs a bigger budget so that he can hire and spend more money on his programmers because the last guy got recruited to Netflix. So it would go something like this. Isn't it frustrating when we can't serve our vendors and it's taking us 12 weeks to get this product out that checks a window? Let me tell you why that's happening. It's happening because we are not competitive with the salaries for our top programmers. Has anybody else got some kind of a problem that they could imagine in the IT space? Because I am not actually in IT.
So we have a question from Sam. Sam, you
Okay, this is great. This is a great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
So why am I always talking about emotions? Well, it is my belief that people make decisions based on emotions and trust. So what we see with a lot of engineers or technical people, when they give presentations, they're not thinking about things on an emotional term. So if you can imagine that we have various layers to us, certainly, you know, thinking, numbers, engineering things having to do with business, that is on a higher level. But when it comes to making a decision that involves money or relationships or long-term planning, we make those decisions on emotion. So that means that it's based more on a feeling. It's based on a perception. it's kind of like, imagine that you have to communicate something without words. So, of course, words are important. You have to be logical. But if you start working with a top-notch public speaking coach, like I'm thinking about actually Lisa Wentz, who's somebody that I share an office with, but she's a couple layers up from where I am. And at the end of my talk, she said, "How do you want them to feel?" And I was like, wow, that's a mind blower. So when it comes to decisions, sales, think emotions. Let me see another question here. Do these 7 steps apply to different audiences and content? Oh, absolutely. And I didn't mention this, but some of my earlier 7 steps, one of the steps would have been know your audience, because it obviously makes a difference if you're talking to kindergartners or shareholders. So, you sort of have to be your own boss on this. But I would have to say that probably the biggest mistake that a lot of presenters make is that they don't spend enough time talking to their audience. They don't spend enough time looking back at their own message from the outside. If we're, Alex, you're a top-notch programmer, Linux inside and out, that's great. But, what does the world want now? So knowing your audience is really important, and you have to tailor it to your audience. Last question from Will. A bit of mundane technical detail. How to handle eye contact? Good question. Okay. This is where this is the number one issue for most people on screen. So imagine peripheral vision. So, if you're driving or whatever, you're not looking at the whole road and taking everything in, but you're letting things come in through the periphery. So when you're talking on camera, right now, I am fixated on the green dot. Actually, my camera is a little to the left of my green dot. So I am pointing my eye straight to that camera. Now watch how significant it is. I'm going to go a ½ inch down, and I'm just now talking to this place a little below the camera. Can you see the difference? This is me talking directly to camera, and this is me a little bit low. So the point here is that when you give a presentation, you need to practice talking right to that camera, catch everything else on the peripheral vision. Sometimes it means you have to, turn off the screen of the person that is on the Zoom call. And a great way to do this is just practice it a little bit, record yourself, and watch the presentation. And when you watch the playback, you will wish that you had been looking at the camera. Let's see. One more question. We all have to consider set design. Absolutely. Set design and lighting. Okay. This is really big. And I think that, there's a lot of ways to do it. We're actually going to a green screen for everything that we're going to be doing as we launch our official business next month. Think about color. If you were going to work with a branding agent and somebody who's going to be like a total pro, and they're going to say, we're going to develop your personal brand or whatever, you want to limit your color palette to a certain key number of colors. We've chosen a deep blue. And then, not rocket science, just take all the laundry out. I think those, when the pandemic first hit, it was pretty cool to be casual. You could kind of do it from whatever space you were in. It didn't really matter. I think it matters now. So pay attention to your background, clean it up, organize your bookshelf. That's going to be it. Okay. So Alex, I think that's it for Q&A.